and just waiting for me to be able to admit it, but loving me through it. And it makes me emotional just thinking about it. So I would put a blanket over my head, and I remember just like early memories of me just crying and being like, please go away, please go away. I don't want this. I don't want this. Please go away. Very functional. I would go to work every day. A lot of my friends and family had no idea, but I knew that there was a dependency in order to forget and not feel. I would go out to the bar, and it was like if I had one drink, I was thinking about my second before I was done the first. And he goes, Sarah, I think you just need to go full woo-woo and just do it.
We are spiritual beings, right? So I think it's just the remembering that.
See you on a horse, and the horse bucks you off, and you're laying on the ground, and you've broken your back, you can't move. And she said to me, I never knew why in this lifetime that I was deathly afraid of horses, and I have chronic back pain. I can talk to her body and say, this back pain is from that horse accident. Like, work with me and let's move it through to allow the healing to happen. You know what, Sarah? You could have one drink a month, but if you're drinking because you're trying to disassociate and you're emotionally dependent on that drink, then you're an alcoholic. And I just knew that if I wanted to live the life that I was meant to live, and it was like this fire inside of me that was like, this has to go. This meditation is sitting in your own shit.
Welcome back to Redefining Love. I am your host, Tara Portelli. And today's episode is a little bit out there. I'm just going to pre-warn you. And keep an open mind as you listen to this, because maybe it's going to answer some questions, maybe some burning questions that you may have had, or maybe things that you've heard of that you didn't truly understand. So, when you were a kid and maybe you were afraid of the dark, or maybe you thought you saw things in the window, or you saw things in the room. Well, today's guest, Sarah, is an intuitive, and she was an intuitive at a very young age, and she had really special abilities that she couldn't understand or conceptualize, and it really started to affect her as she got older, to the point where she ended up going down a dark road of addictions. This addiction took her so far away from herself, on a path that was so disconnected from who she truly was and from her gifts. But over time, she found her way back. Not only did she find her way back, but she found her way to a career that was completely aligned for her and for who she was meant to be in this life. This storyline is not unique to her. So many of us lose track of who we truly are, trying to conform into what we feel is normal and ignoring the truth within. But what if that inner voice that we've been ignoring is actually the path to a bigger life, to something that feels exciting and inspiring? Please help me welcome our guest, Sarah Huffing.
Tell me, what was it like to be a little girl in your house?
It was magical and confusing all at the same time. I definitely, I think always realizing now that I was intuitive at a very young age, I created my own world. And I was able to connect with people who had crossed over, or spirit guides. And so I was able to create an alternate reality that kept the magic. They were aware, but they were kind of like, what the heck is wrong with our kid? So I remember going downstairs to them every night and saying, like, I'm scared. I see things. And I would actually always see two men standing over my bunk bed, and I was in the top bunk, and they were tall, thin, almost like alien-esque men. One had a hat on, and it was freaky. It was really freaky because nobody was able to tell me what was going on or why I was able to see this. And I didn't want people looking at me while I was trying to sleep. So they would say, just go to bed. You're probably having a dream or it's not really there. Like just always telling me that, what I was seeing wasn't real and not helping to nurture or comfort, right, in the ways that I needed it. So I would put a blanket over my head, and I remember just like early memories of me just crying and being like, please go away. Please go away. I don't want this. I don't want this. Please go away. And once I started to figure out developing my intuition as an adult and kind of rekindling that flame that I then squashed, I realized that those two men, one was my spirit guide and one was my sister's, who was in the bed underneath me.
Oh, wow.
So they were watching us and protecting us. And so I had done a meditation, a journeying to figure out who my guide was. And I saw him. And then all of a sudden things started clicking with the memories from childhood. And so I didn't say anything to my sister. And I asked her, I said, can you do this meditation and just tell me what you see? And she saw the other guy. And it fit exactly the description of what I remember as a kid.
When you were an adult, you did this with your sister.
When I was an adult, yeah. So it just really, like, it helped heal that little girl who was so scared and so worried that something was wrong with her. And my kids have shown intuitive abilities, and I'm just so grateful that I'm at this place in my life where I can guide and support and tell them it's okay. It's okay to feel and to see and to experience.
It's really interesting because I feel like a lot of kids say they can see things, or they're like, oh, I'm really scared because I saw this like I would see things in my window. Like I would see what do you call it? Like reflections in my window, and it freaked me out. And then I would cry to my parents, but they would be like, just go back to bed and stop acting like that, And I think it's like a real thing that people should be aware of, like, because if you do believe, like, I mean, everybody believes in something different, but if you believe that we are being reincarnated and we are in another life,
yeah,
then essentially we're not that far off of our last life. If we're So then we can remember sometimes, or we're very intuitive. And then as we grow up and we get older and we shut those parts down, like those parts of ourselves down because of fear or not understanding it, or also non-acceptance, right?
Exactly. And it's like there's so much research on it, Tara, so much research on, like, by the time we're 7, like, so 7 and under, it's kind of that golden, like, your subconscious hasn't been as programmed, right? It's new, and it's like just come into this new life, and it still remembers the old life. There was something where a child, he was about 3 or 4, and he said to his grandmother, my name was Joe in a past life. I was shot in the back and I was riding a bike, and this is where I lived. And he knew his address. And it wasn't that far. It was like maybe 30, 40 minutes from where he lived at the time. So he was so specific that his grandma was like, hey, I have to check this out. And they drove to the house, and he said, yep, that's the house. They knock on the door, and the people who were there were the mother and father of this son, and confirmed that 5 years before, and this kid was like 3 or 4, that he had died and got shot in the back while biking.
Oh, wow.
And so he remembered all the details from how he died. And my favorite book to recommend to people is Journey of Souls by Michael Newton, because it's like, he's this hypnotherapist, just like you, right? And it's like you're going into that subconscious, and he didn't mean to go into people's subconscious when they were dying from their past life, but he did. And he interviewed thousands and thousands of people and was able to map out the entire afterlife. And it was all these people who had very similar stories that he was able to create this map. And it's just so beautiful. And it gave me peace about death and the afterlife. I felt like inside of me there was a remembering. when I read it, and it just made sense to me. And especially with being able to see past lives, I was like, yes, that's exactly, it rang very true for me.
It's amazing that as an adult you've been able to really tap back into this and like actually run with it. Because I
Yeah.
feel like obviously as a child it was scary for you and it caused you a lot of grief when you were younger and a lot of disconnect from yourself, right? Because as you're shutting it down, as you're starting to come into your adult life, now you're confused about who you are in the world and how you relate to the world because you just shut yourself down essentially and probably what you were meant to do in this life because of programming, right?
So just to kind of tie in what you were saying about the intuition, because you're so right. Like, and it's interesting how it kept trying to get me to become intuitive again, right? Like to keep pulling that. And I remember I had a palmistry book and I, for some reason, was like really into it, right? Like, again, that pull. I used to pull tarot cards when I was in high school. And they freaked me out. I didn't know how to use them. Now I do, right? But the palmistry book, I remember being out in the smoking section of the high school just because I knew people would be sitting doing nothing and I could take one of their palms and read it and kind of play around with what I was learning. And it was wild. And I knew, like, I didn't know the people that were out there. So it's like I would have like a clear way of reading them. And I would see things. And that's when I first started realizing I was getting visions because I would see things and it was like watching a movie, but it was a memory that wasn't mine. So then I started telling them what I was seeing. And it was either a memory from the past or it was a premonition for the future. And it freaked me out. I had somebody ask me to find a missing person. I was only 20. I would have people come. I would go to people's houses, friends' houses for parties. They would want me to read them, and I never charged for it. And so there was this energy exchange of it that was depleting me because it was like something that came naturally to me, but I didn't think that that's something that I could do for work. So my depletion was just like, it was draining me. And I would be sick the whole next day. I would be in bed. I would usually be drinking. And so I would drink alcohol to try to disassociate from feeling and healing and just allowing myself to because as I'm helping other people, I'm feeling all of their pain, their sadness. I had no boundaries. I had no grounding. I had no protection. It was just all coming in fast and fierce. And so I started hating my gift. I started resenting it. And I was like, is this a gift or a curse? To the point where I stopped telling people I could do it. And I remember moving and saying, I don't want anybody to know that I can do this. And then I ended up really, I was very lucky. I know my guides were looking out for me because there was many times where I would drink and I was very functional. I would go to work every day. A lot of my friends and family had no idea, but I knew that there was a dependency in order to forget and not feel.
So now take us to that moment that you had where it was your rock bottom moment, and share with us what happened and what your relationship was with yourself at that stage.
I would go out to the bar and it was like if I had one drink, I was thinking about my second before I was done the first. And my friends, I would tell them just, once they were done for the night, I would be like, that's fine. You go home. I'm going to find a new group of people to hang out with because I needed the party to keep going. And I would be out till 5 a.m, stumbling home. And I remember that night where I stumbled home and I just knew. I knew that if it was like this crazy feeling just came over me where I would always drink and then justify. And I would tell myself, it's not that bad. I have it under control. I'm still going to work. I'm still all these things. And I was working with a counselor who had said to me, try just having one drink. And I remember sitting there with my one drink, and I didn't even know what anybody was saying at the table. I had completely tuned it out because I was just thinking about that second drink. And so 5 a.m, I'm stumbling home, and it was like something hit me. And I could see the future I wanted. I knew ever since I was little, I've always wanted to be a mother. And I knew the patterns that my family had. There's alcoholism that runs in the family. And I just knew that if I wanted to live the life that I was meant to live, and it was like this fire inside of me that was like, this has to go. Like, it just felt like if I didn't cut it out, it was going to be recreated. It was going to wreck my life. And then I would have to do it all over again in the next. And it was like this fire burning in my belly that was like, no, you can't. And I remember waking up the next day, calling my best friend, and I said to her, I think I have a problem with alcohol. And she said, Sarah, I know you do. I'm so glad you finally admitted it. And so that hurt because she had been holding that this whole time and just waiting for me to be able to admit it, but loving me through it. And it makes me emotional just thinking about it.
Yeah. I mean, would it have been better for her to share her concerns beforehand?
No, I appreciate that she did that so much, because if she had shared her concerns, we might not be friends today, because I felt like I was in control. And so if somebody came in and told me I wasn't, I would tell them that they're a fucking liar and that they're bullshitting, that I was fine. And it might, for a bit, kind of go into my brain, but it would be more, I would blame her. And I had to hit the rock bottom. I had to come to terms with the fact that this was something that I needed to evolve from. She couldn't have done that for me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes sense. And so, like, when you were going through that period of time when you were dependent on alcohol but not really aware of it, like when you looked in the mirror, who is it that you saw? What was your relationship with her?
It's interesting because I realize now I saw my body, the body I was given in this lifetime. And it was my soul had walked away. We weren't connected. The mind was there controlling the body, and the mind said that it needed the substance. And the soul was over here in the background, waiting to reconnect patiently.
I feel like a lot of people could probably relate to that, but they're not aware of it.
No, yeah. And it's really hard watching family members go through it. And knowing that you can love and support them as much as you can, but that ultimately it is their choice, and that in this lifetime, what we always have is free will. So we have to help and support, but it is something that ultimately is up to the person.
Yeah. I've talked to a lot of people who battled addictions, and there's one particular person, he shared with me this analogy, which I wonder if you could relate to, but it was like, imagine that a train is going 200 miles an hour and it's coming at you, and there's no way to stop it. And it's just like that is what happens in the addiction. It's like you just don't have any control over it. It can take you over. I don't know if that's for you, yeah.
Yeah, and I felt like I was at the point where I could start to see the train coming. I feel like I'm very grateful that I was able to snap back in as a soul and take over.
Yeah.
And I feel like I caught it in the right time. Right after Oh, and my counselor said to me when I said to her that I felt like I had a problem with drinking, she said very interesting fact that she said, because I said to her, I only, usually have drinks on the weekend. It's not every day. Like, and she said, you know what, Sarah, you could have one drink a month. But if you're drinking because you're trying to disassociate and you're emotionally dependent on that drink, then you're an alcoholic.
Very interesting.
That was very interesting. Because I don't think most of our society, I don't know that they would agree. Because it is so socially acceptable. And even when I became a mom, it was like, oh, wine o'clock, got to grab my wine, got to have a wine after work. Baby's having a nap, gonna have a sip of wine. Is it 12 o'clock yet? And it's just like this culture. And it literally is it's toxic.
Yeah.
And we're poisoning our bodies.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's socially acceptable?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because I don't want to go down any rabbit holes, but I'm sure there is a purpose for legalization of alcohol, and not mushrooms, which can be healing and something that you are not dependent on. But yeah, I mean, it is causing you to be distracted and not feel your emotions and distracted from your real life. And it isn't addictive. So it is a substance that you can become dependent on, depending on what your emotional relationship is with it.
Yeah.
Now, it's been 15 years that you've been sober, correct?
16. 16.
Your second anniversary.
Yeah, I said my sobriety has celebrated its sweet 16 this month. Yeah.
That's amazing. And so what do you think has been the driver to you staying sober? And you never had a relapse in all that time?
No. It was interesting because my husband and I got married in Punta Cana, and he told them, my wife doesn't drink. Can you make her a really nice drink? And he brought it up to our room, and I felt it in my mouth, and I could feel the burning of the alcohol, and I spit it out into the sink. And that's the closest I've ever come in 16 years. And he felt awful. And we went through a time where he would often take a sip of my drink before I would drink it, just in case, because I would always order these virgin drinks, but usually have like something like a virgin Caesar or something like that especially at first, that would just kind of make me feel like I was part of it socially. And now I'm at the point where I couldn't care less.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's amazing that you were able to sustain from it and never go back. And like you obviously didn't feel that you needed that distraction anymore. So what do you think you were holding on to that kept you sober?
My kids. I hadn't even had them yet. And it was like, I quit drinking in 2009. I walked across Spain on the Camino de Santiago 4 or 5 months after I quit drinking. So it was like June 2009 I quit drinking. So then I guess it would have been, August, September 2009, I walked across Spain, and I was scared because in Spain there's like fountains of wine. And I'm like, am I going to be this lady that's like open mouthed over the fountain, just going for it because I've had enough, And I didn't. And I never saw one. I never saw a wine fountain. And I was like, thank you, God. So I didn't have that temptation. But that was such a healing experience because we walked 10 days and 333 kilometers is what we walked over that 10 days. And I remember just bawling. Like it was like all the emotions would come up where I would think about, mistakes I'd made, decisions I'd made, while drinking. I hadn't really had a relationship with anybody being sober. And so it was like all these feelings just coming up, and I'd get really angry and I'd walk really fast with my walking stick. And then all of a sudden I would just burst out into tears. And it just felt like that was such a beautiful release where I was able to let it all go. And it's interesting how you just like take it, and it's like you're already feeling bad about yourself. So you're drinking, and then the drinking and the mistakes you make allow you to feel even worse. Like it becomes addictive in another way.
Because it's almost like you want to escape the guilt and the shame, so you want to go back to the drinking. Does that sound?
Well, it was like I felt like when I was drinking, it was like I was drinking because I didn't want to feel guilt and shame, but subconsciously I was addicted to the guilt and shame. So the drinking allowed me to feel more guilt and shame because of the decisions I made.
So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes. It was just this big loop, right? And so I realized I needed to release the guilt and the regret in order to move forward, because I had to accept the fact that that was part of my path. And I lost a lot of friends because they didn't know how to be with me sober.
And it's like trying to figure out how you can like relate to people without alcohol, which is really interesting. I stayed with my father after he got out of his addictions recovery center, and we were together for 7 weeks, and it was really beautiful to be able to support him in like trying new things. Like I took him to the gym for the first time, and like he was just kind of like, oh, like I just kept catching him staring at all the women. Like he actually wasn't working out. He just kept like, oh, his eyes kept darting around. He was like, I should come back here next time, like more often, you know? And it's just like finding a way to move through the world in different, because with addiction, it becomes the center of your world. Your whole day is planned around your next drink, or, you know, or I can't drive because I got a drink, or, you know, like like that was him. Like he was always irritable and growing up because he was itching for his next drink. And then once he had it, he was happy. And then that's the version of him that you attach yourself to. You're like, he's slurring a lot, but like at least he's happy, you know?
At least he's not yelling.
Yeah, at least he's not yelling or not happy. I'm like, he just needs a drink, like then he'll chill out. So it's interesting how we have to like kind of relate to the people coming out of addictions, right? And actually I saw my father the most happy I'd ever seen him after he let go of that crutch. It was very brief, but you know.
You got that glimmer, right?
Glimmer, yeah. Yeah, he's like, wow, I've done so much today. Like, look how productive I am. I never knew I could do all these things, like, because you're just kind of in a fog all the time. And I guess too, like now when you cleared out alcohol from your life, it really allowed you to tap back into your intuitive abilities and
Totally. Because that was numbing it. And I didn't realize how much alcohol, sugar, like all the things that we can be addicted to, right? It completely numbs our intuition. And it was like, as soon as I walked across Spain, I remember coming home and saying to myself, okay, I remember being in the shower and being like, okay, talking to like my guides, God, whoever's listening. I'm like, I'm ready. I'm ready for my partner. I feel like I've like done this work and I'm ready. And 4 months later, I met Chris.
Which you're still together today.
We're still together today. He's never known me to drink. And I was scared to tell him at first. I didn't tell him because I was scared that he would leave me if he knew that I had struggled and that he couldn't drink with me and that it might be too much for him.
Right. And you tried to run away from the relationship.
Many times because I did everything I could to push him the way I had pushed other people and they would leave. So I tested him over and over and over again because I didn't think I deserved love. And that was really hard for me too, because when I would drink and I would be in these relationships, like I was like, it was like I said, I wasn't really attached to my body. I hated myself. I hated my body. going back to that image of me looking at myself in the mirror. And, I remember being at bars and going in the mirror and just looking at that reflection, and it's all like swimming, because you've had so much to drink, and mascara running down my face where I think I look super great. And then you look in the mirror and you're like, what the fuck happened? But you kind of think, oh, maybe I'm still hot. And you go back out there because you just have another drink and keep going, right? But it's like, I didn't like myself. I didn't like who I was. I wasn't connected to her. I didn't like her. And it's like, to go back in time and give her a hug. And, I often joke about this where it's like, Sarah, put down the drink, go to the fucking gym. Like, do something that's going to allow you to bring that light out, right? Like, do something that's going to help. But it's like, I wasn't capable at that time.
Like, obviously too, you quit the drinking and then was not long after you met Chris. So you were finally loving yourself, and now you can accept love, because ultimately, unless you love yourself, how could you ever let love in? So now you have this guy who's willing to basically accept you for everything that you are, and your victim past self wants to push him away because, you know what, he's going to abandon me anyways.
Exactly.
And, yeah. So talking about frequency, for somebody that doesn't know what you're talking about, could you just explain a little bit, like, what does that even mean? Like, if somebody's struggling with an addiction, and they're noticing they're attracting in all the wrong people into their life, and they're staying in these dense frequencies, like, what does all of this mean? Can you explain?
Yeah. So a really cool study to look at and I'll explain it, but like a really cool study for people to kind of look into is Dr. Emoto, and he did some really amazing research with water. And so when he meditated, and he had a group of people meditate, and they meditated and thought about like love and joy. So love and joy are the highest frequency feelings that we have. And when he looked under a microscope at the water that was in the middle of them, then he could see like these beautiful snowflakes and all this like beautiful imagery. And then they did the same thing, but they thought about hate, fear. And so those are the lowest frequency feelings. And when you looked into the microscope, there was like black darkness. So it just shows that when we have these thoughts or these feelings, we are affecting ourselves because we're mostly made of water. So if it's doing this to this water in this, petri dish, like, what is it doing and affecting to us? And our brains are in charge of that feeling, to be able to direct it. We want to feel joy. We have to think joyful thoughts, or, really tap into that feeling. So if we are drinking and we are in that state, it's a fear state. We're in fear. We want to disassociate. We don't want to feel it. We hate ourselves. It's all of those lower vibrational feelings that are coming in order to numb, and that's pulling our frequency down.
Yeah, no, that study is so powerful, because it is showing that our words are powerful, and that they do affect not only our own selves, but also the people around us. So like choosing what you say to people, choosing how you speak to yourself. Yeah, it's just really interesting to me around like frequency and vibration, and how as you heal your body, and as you heal these limiting belief systems that we have put in place to protect us, how you can expand and you can attract into your life different types of people.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I see it with clients all the time. And it's funny, when I work with people, a client just emailed me and had said I could share that, like, she's like, Sarah, every time it's like a TV antenna. That's what I call it, the TV antenna, where it's like, your crown chakra, the crown chakra connects to the universe. And it's like we're putting their TV antenna on, and we're like beaming out to all of these amazing things. I mean, we also beam out where I feel like the universe is like, okay, they're doing this work. Let's give them some lessons, because I want to know that they are breaking that pattern. And I think a lot of people really get confused on that, where it's like, well, but I'm doing the work. Why is this still coming at me? Why am I still getting all of these things that I don't want, right? And it's like, I really feel, first of all, that we create the reality that we're living in, and we create it way in advance, like 6 months in advance, a year in advance, right? So there's that, where it's like residual thoughts that you're living in. And then also that we just end up, I really feel that the universe is collaborating with us. And it's like, I always remind clients, it's happening for you, not to you. And that's very important, because we can feel sometimes like the universe is against us. Never, ever, ever is the universe against us. It's happening for you, not to you. And it's part of this divine plan in order to progress your soul on this mission that it's on in this lifetime.
And in your opinion, what is this mission that we're going on in this lifetime?
It's different for everyone. I actually very nerdily created, because this is a big passion of mine, I created a custom GPT that is, it discovers your soul's purpose and some of your past lives to help figure out what you're here to do. And it's creepily accurate. Mm-hmm. And so I've programmed it in order to, with different data, right, that I know from astrology and from working with people, that's very important. And so I'm going to integrate it into my coaching, because I think it's very important when somebody's coming to me and it's like they feel stuck, but then we know the map and the blueprint of what their soul needs to know in this lifetime, and to be able to work with that information and that data, it can be really powerful.
That's really cool. Okay, I need to try this.
I know. I want to know what yours is.
I'm so curious.
It'll be like healer in many lifetimes.
Maybe, yeah, I guess so. I don't know. It's so hard because I don't really remember past lives, or like I haven't really had too much past life experience. So is that something you do as well? Is past life regression?
Yeah, so I don't call it past life regression. It's mostly because all help people go into a past life, but most of the time it's honestly me going there, right? So it's like I will see it, and then I will help people through it. And it's really interesting, because once I tell people what I've seen, like guaranteed 90% of the time they just start bawling. And they're like, I don't know why I'm crying. And it's like, because we're talking to your soul. Your soul remembers, but your conscious mind doesn't. And one of the girls, it was incredible. I had I'd seen a past life for her. And I said, I see you on a horse. And she's allowed me to share this. I see you on a horse, and the horse bucks you off, and you're laying on the ground, and you've broken your back. You can't move. And she said to me, I never knew why in this lifetime that I was deathly afraid of horses, and I have chronic back pain. And so she's carried that into this lifetime. And so now that we know that information, we know the source, and we're able to heal. And so it's like, as soon as you bring, like, the first step of anything is awareness, right? So it's like, now we have that awareness. Now we're able to move her body through it. And I can talk to her body and say, this back pain is from that horse accident. Like, work with me and let's move it through to allow the healing to happen.
That's really an incredible gift that you have.
Thank you. I think so now.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. It's like, obviously you had to trust it as well, right? Like, it takes time to build that trust with yourself.
So much time and playing. Like, to genuinely play. And I remember, saying to Chris, because I knew I wanted to help people. I had been told I needed to be a teacher. Then it was like, I went to my grade 7 classroom when I was in university, and I was doing my teaching placement, and I was like, I looked at my teaching partner and I was like, this is not what I want to do. And she's like, you're so good at it. Why are you? And it's like, that's the first time that something inside me was like, nope, nope, not the right path. You're not going to do what people tell you to do. And I walked away, and that was scary. But, then it was like, I knew I needed to help people in some way. And I still feel like I'm teaching, but it's just not in the way that society had thought for me. It's in the way that my soul needed to. So I got my degree in psychology. Then I knew I wanted to be a life coach. But then the intuition kept coming back. And like things kept happening where people were coming into my life, courses were being shown to me. It was like the right price, the right time, like everything just kept, it was like I had this silver platter that was like, take me. And I remember looking at Chris when I started developing my intuition, and I was scared to bring it into my practice. And he looked at me and he's like, Sarah, and he's like, he's only because I am, you know what I mean? Like, because he trusts me and he sees what I can do. And he goes, Sarah, I think you just need to go full woo woo and just do it.
Funny when people call it that. I still reference it as woo woo. But in all honesty, like we are spiritual beings, right? So I think it's just the remembering that.
It's the remembering. And I think woo woo feels safe. It feels funny. It feels safe. And I really feel like, going back to your question about soul's purpose, it's like I really feel like right now we are in a stage where the solar plexus, which is all about like masculine wealth, like very hard energy, like very masculine energy, that's where the universe, like the earth, has been living in. And now we're moving to heart-centered energy. And so what happens is that businesses who don't come from the heart, leaders who are not leading with the heart, you're going to see shifts. You're going to see turmoil. You're going to see things happen, right? Where it's like, and leaders who are star seeds, which are people who have come to this timeline at this time because of that move into the heart energy, are here right now in order to raise the consciousness of humankind. And there's that beautiful book by Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth, which speaks about this. And it's not that we're living on a new earth, but we are living in a higher dimension. So we're all on the third dimension. And then it's like there's this higher frequency that's being created. So a lot of people, especially you look at 2020, so many people, how many people do you know that like move jobs, move locations, switch jobs, like stop doing everything they knew, right? Like that was an energetic shift that happened that moved a lot of people's frequency up. And so you're seeing things like that happening in order to make this possible.
Yeah, so essentially it's like everybody is abandoning the self that wasn't aligned and moving into the self that is aligned, right? Like,
yeah, I really, like, as soon as you said that, I see like a shedding of the skin. Like it was like, unzip, I need to get this off because it can't come with me to where I need to go.
Yeah. And then there is those people that are going to kind of be left behind, and I think the ones that are still really fearful of breaking out of this life that they're in, that they're probably feeling trapped in, empty, checked all the boxes, still feel unfulfilled because they're not fulfilling their soul's purpose. So what advice would you give to those people to like get started?
To the people who are not fulfilling their soul's purpose?
Yeah. Like how do they like take that first step? Like what should they do? How do they figure it out?
Okay, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I really feel like it's the same as with quitting alcohol. It has to be inside them. You can't create that. The people who are meant to go into this new earth are the ones who have that stirring inside of them. They've known since they were little that there is something different about them, or they've just felt different, or there's more. They always feel like there's something more. that they need to do more, they need to expand, they don't want to be put into a box. Like there's this longing, and if you don't have that, you're not going to be able, I don't feel, create it. I feel like some people, it's like they do move into that higher frequency because of the other people who are star seeds, where they start noticing possibilities. They're like, oh man. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're in this social media phase, right? Where it's like we're able to tap into possibilities of what people can provide and what can be created that 20 years ago we couldn't have. So it's putting us in that higher consciousness. We see businesses who are making $1 million a day and we're saying, why not me? But I mean, that's the main thing, where it's like, if you're saying, why not me? Or if you're saying, I wish I were them, that's the difference.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think there is some people that just feel comfortable in that container, right? And what you're saying is that there's some people that they don't feel aligned with that container that they're in. And that if you feel that like disease inside, it's like you need to explore it, because this isn't your path, that you need to break out of it and start to kind of explore, and maybe meditation, maybe like being still, so you can start to listen to that inner voice, which is something that a lot of us don't do. And I know,
it's hard. It's really hard. And I think a lot of people don't want to. They don't. I used to be a yoga teacher, and I always remember people who didn't like yoga or didn't like meditation is because they don't want to be alone with themselves.
Right.
They don't want to be alone with their thoughts. Like, it's another way of disassociating, right? They're pulling away. They don't want to sit. And I remember my yoga teacher, I loved the way she said this: meditation is sitting in your own shit. Mm-hmm. And it really is, because you've got to feel it. You've got to experience it. But I also really believe that the Starseed's job is to get as many people on board with this higher consciousness, but it's through their work, right? So it's like, for you and me, it's the work we do. We are heart-centered entrepreneurs, beaming that light. Come with me, right? It's always a choice. It's always free will. Come with me. And something we say is going to ignite something in them to be like, and the inner calling is going to come.
Right.
Now, there's other people who are going to be like, what the fuck is that lady talking about? I have no idea, right? And I remember you and I talking about Esther Hicks. And you would be like, Sarah, these are so amazing. You got to hear them. And I was like, I don't know what they're saying. Like, I can't follow it. And then it was like a year later, something in my brain clicked, and it was like what they said was gospel, like it was just like my brain opened and it made sense. It made total sense. And so I feel that happens to the people who are open to receiving. But I also really believe that the people who are not open to receiving, they have a place. They have a place in being the catalyst for our growth. And even though their mission is not to come to the new earth, they are providing that shadow work that us light workers need in order to launch us. So it's like, thank you, thank you, thank you.
And so for a lot of people who maybe are just embarking on their spiritual path, they don't know any of this language, light workers, shadow work, star seeds, this is a whole conversation we could have on another podcast, so we could share it with people. Can you put it in a more of a simple kind of for people to understand?
Yeah, so you'll hear starseed, light worker. So it's people who have come into this world at this time in order to raise the consciousness of humankind. That can be done in many, many, many ways. you might be a bakery owner that brings light to people. You might, but it's like these light workers that have this bigger purpose and they want to help people. And what it's doing is it's like we talked about with that higher frequency feelings. It's people who are in that joy, in that love, doing, and I think that's why a lot of people moved from their jobs that weren't providing them joy into jobs that were, because they needed to raise their own frequency. And it's usually in helping fields. And then they are recruiting, right? It's like the Pied Piper recruiting all of these people to come along. And so that's the best explanation I can do of like light worker starseed, I feel. And then, and it's that purpose of helping and of being light.
To kind of clarify for people that being a light worker doesn't mean you don't do shadow work. I feel like that's a bit confusing.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
It doesn't mean that every day is going to be love and light. And, if you're feeling bad, it's like you're not there, or that you're doing something wrong. I think it's important for people to realize that no mud, no lotus. I've probably said this before on other podcasts, but like the difficulty in life is actually what's shaping us. And it's important for us to grow and expand. And like you said, like you read this, or you like would listen to Abraham Hicks, who is channeling a spirit, for those of you who don't know her. And you were like, what is they even saying? And then after your expansion of consciousness happened, which will happen over time, it's like a child up to like an adolescent, up to like you're constantly expanding your awareness.
Yeah.
Then you're reading the same thing, but now it's making sense to you, right? So
exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And it's like, I really like that point, Tara, about the shadow work. If anything, I feel that light workers have even more shadow work than, everyday people. And it's like, because they need that catalyst in order to allow them to push through and be able to know, like for me, working with women who, go, they're in that control state, they're in that fear state. And my mission is to help them move into trusting the universe, trusting themselves, trusting their bodies. And I had to go through all of that in a shadow way so that I could learn and know how to help.
Yeah. Like embodiment is wisdom. And that's what you're doing. Like, because you can't share something you've never been through. You can't help someone through something they really don't like you don't understand yourself, right? On the level.
No, exactly. Like I'm not teaching people how to build houses. Like I would be terrible. No one wants that.
No. Not at all. No, I would be afraid to live in a house that you built. So it'd be like a vortex around it, crystals on every corner.
Exactly. I'll be like, it's okay, guys. We got crystals.
Yeah, we're good. We don't need an architect on this one, guys. So thank you so much for all of that. I feel like that really kind of makes a lot more sense. And for someone that doesn't understand, I think there is a little bit of confusion around this lingo because it's become a lot like very mainstream, but I feel like people don't really understand it. So it's good to clarify that, and maybe in another time we can kind of even go even more in depth, and you could actually do like a live reading on me or something cool like that.
Ooh, that would be so fun. Go into your past lives.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Actually, I have done a reading before with you, and it was a very interesting one. I think it was one of my, I've had two, and you were one to do one for me. And close your ears if you don't want to hear this, but it was pretty graphic. I was like on a bed, tied up, and it was like there was a man coming in and out, and I was like I was being sexually abused, or like almost you kind of pulled like trafficking happening, and that I had trusted this person and they had betrayed me. And actually that's interesting for me because my theme in my life has been around betrayal. Mm-hmm. And I always like lean in, I trust someone, and then they do something even remotely that like questions their integrity, and I run away the other way. And this has happened to me even in the last months. Like I just like trust someone. I'm like, oh, they're not in alignment. They're not in like with their integrity, I'm out, before the actual betrayal happens. Like, it's like I can see it now, and I'm just like, the universe keeps testing me. It's like, are you going to let this person into your world? Because you know how this goes down. Like,
Right?
have you learned your lesson yet? So
Exactly.
yeah. So Sarah's very gifted at what she does. So please share with everyone how they can get a hold of you, what you're offering right now. You're just, because we didn't go there at this in this conversation, but you're a psychic medium.
Yeah, so I am a psychic medium with a psychology degree. So I like to integrate the two. I bridge psychology and spirituality. And a few of my offerings right now, I'm offering the Discover Your Past Lives and Soul Purpose for free. So you can go to my website at lovelightintuitivehealing.com, and you'll see a pop up, and you can put your email in and you can start playing around with that custom GPT. And then there's a nice PDF to help you ask some extended questions to the GPT. And I also have a course, it's 8 modules, that's called Trust Within. And so that's pretty much like we were talking about, Tara, how it's like when I was trying to build my intuition and I was like a fish out of water, like what do I do? How do I protect myself? How do I ground? How do I keep my, what does my mind, my body? So it's like, it's from the mind, body, spirit perspective of trusting yourself and building that foundation. It's a really beautiful course, pretty much of everything that I wish I had. And then one-on-one sessions with me, I call it the self-love sessions, and that's 6 sessions where we are working through what is happening in your life and what patterns you need to break, what needs to be healed, and really figuring out where your soul's purpose is and moving into that direction and helping you leave anxiety, leave people pleasing, leave the guilt, all of those things that keep us stuck in that fear-based thinking and moving into that trust.
That's so exciting. I feel like I need all of that, or at least I need some of it. I definitely going to play with your Chat GPT, and I want to see what going on. But what I'll do for everybody is I'll just put all of the links in the show notes so that you have them accessible. You can connect with Sarah on her social media. She's very vulnerable. I always love your way of being in the world. You're just such a real person, and I really appreciate you. And just for those of you who are curious, Sarah and I randomly met on a plane.
Yes, I love this story so much.
With an accidental seat switch. So,
yeah. Well, and I beelined for you.
I know, you were attracted to me.
Yeah, I was. And I love this story because it really shows how the universe is working through us. And there was wind and we were not supposed to fly. We were supposed to take the ferry from Vancouver back to the island. And my husband and I never take trips, the two of us. And we just happened to that weekend, couldn't get on the ferry. We're not able, I think it was 3 or 4 flight cancellations. It was crazy. Finally get on this flight. And I just beelined for Tara and asked her, is this the right flight? And she was like, yes, it is. And then we go on. And then she sits beside me. And that was 5 years ago.
I know, it's so crazy. Yeah. And it was at a point when I was getting on my first flight to go to the Vancouver Island to follow my path with psilocybin therapy, and how everything was aligned for me at that point because I had randomly found this organization, and it happened to be 2 blocks down the street from me when I went to visit my friend in Victoria. So it was all of these things kept unfolding, and it's endless. We could sit here and have a conversation about synchronicities all in around this situation, but this is how the universe works, right? And this is how, when you are in alignment with your soul's purpose, what can happen for you and how you can really create the magic in your everyday just by paying attention and noticing what's happening in your life and how things are showing up at the right time. So.
Yeah. And it's it was when I asked you, when I talked to you, it was like something else was speaking. You know what I mean? Where it's I knew what flight it was, but it was I had to speak to you. I had to talk to you. And it was just like it came out of me, and I was like, okay.
And then we just found a lot of alignments, and then we kind of never stopped talking.
No, I know. And it's like we said, it's like the shadow work that we've been through. It's like these figure eights that we do with each other, where it's like one's going through it, then the other goes through it, then the other, and I think that's a good message too, is it never stops.
No, we still go through our difficulties, right? So,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's an ongoing journey. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. And I look forward to our next conversation, In-Depth Spirituality 101 with Sarah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I know we could go down a big rabbit hole.
And that concludes another episode of Redefining Love. I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode, even if it felt a little bit out there. If you're enjoying these episodes or you're finding that you're taking something away from them, if you could just take a minute after this episode ends and comment, review, or subscribe, it would mean so much to me and only will help me to get this podcast out to the world and to those people that need it. Thank you for your time, and we will see you next week.